And what do they do in every country, Spyro, as this has played out? They started diagnosing COVID-19 from symptoms, first of all. What are the symptoms? Flu-like symptoms. You've got flu-like symptoms. You've got COVID-19. People, the medical profession was told if people have these symptoms, they should be diagnosed with COVID-19. Then the test comes in, this PCR test, which is testing for a genetic material code, not a virus, isolated. And lots of people are going to test positive because lots of people have got that genetic material in their body. And suddenly the numbers start to increase. But your problem is you're not dealing with a lethal virus, quote, a lethal agent. So you can't produce the numbers of dead people. So you do two things. This is the first one. You start producing computer models. And computer models are used profusely by this cult to manipulate perception. The same computer model system used to tell us that by now the North Pole would be ice-free are the same computer model techniques that have been used over this virus. So we have a guy in London called Neil Ferguson, Professor Neil Ferguson. He's a professor. He must be intelligent. I hadn't noticed that, but he must be, I guess. And he's at Imperial College, which, by the way, has massive connections to Freemasonry. And so people aren't dying as they should do from a lethal virus or a bioweapon or any of it. So what you do is you project it. This has happened all the time. You say, oh, no, it's not now, but oh, a big surge is coming. And this Neil Ferguson actually came out and said at a time when the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was holding back and pushing back on this. I mean, he wanted the schools to stay open. He wanted professional soccer to continue. It wasn't him that stopped professional soccer in Britain. It was the football authorities. And then came Professor Ferguson's computer model. Between 250 and 500,000 people could die of this virus in Britain. Of course, that was a new definition for insanity. But imagine you, Prime Minister, just as Trump, and Trump, to be fair, is pushing back on this. He's pushing back on it. We don't know what's going on in the background. And you're told, Mr. Prime Minister, this is what's going to happen if we don't lock down and have this massive economic Armageddon and social distancing and all this stuff. And you will be responsible, Prime Minister, if you don't do it. So what does he do? Suddenly there's a lockdown, which has destroyed the lives of billions of people economically and in many other ways. What happens then, Spyro, is once you've got the lockdown, Professor Buddy Ferguson and his like around the world, you have a version of that in America I'm going to come to, he starts rolling back the numbers, and suddenly they plummet from 500,000 to like less than 20,000, he says. But it doesn't matter because the lockdown's in now. And you have this organization in America that's orchestrating the figures, this is how many have got it, this is how many are dying, called the Johns Hopkins University operation. It just happened to take part in the event that you very well exposed some weeks ago, this event 201 with the Gates organization and the World Economic Forum, the 1% Fest, where they 6 weeks before this kicked off in China, were running a simulation about a coronavirus epidemic or pandemic, which and how that played out is how it's played out. And right at the center of that was the Johns Hopkins organization, which is compiling the figures, and all the media are getting their figures, new deaths. And then what you have as part of this playing out is you tell the medical profession, and this is very clear from people who've actually gone public on it, if someone tests positive for COVID-19, this genetic material that isn't COVID-19, then they must be designated to have died from COVID-19. So we've had so many people come to us at davidicke.com, but other people have spoken out too, whereby people have gone into hospital with heart attacks. And what they're doing, Spyro, is anyone who goes into hospital is being tested for COVID-19. And because it's not a virus, it's a genetic material, lots of them are going to test positive. And so when they do, no matter what actually caused their death, COVID-19 is the cause of death. We had a once famous comedian in Britain called Eddie Large, who died last week. He's had heart trouble for a long time, and he went into hospital with heart failure. He was tested for COVID-19 like all the others, tested positive for the genetic material. And when he died, they said he died basically of COVID-19. But watch the language, watch the media language, indeed watch the political language and the advisor language. So often, mate, you hear this phrase, so and so died, or this number have died after testing positive for COVID-19. Not of COVID-19, but testing positive for it. And one of many things, this PCR test does not cannot detect by its very nature, is how much of this virus or any other virus that a person has in their body. And as medical scientists have said, you cannot diagnose someone has died of something like what they're claiming unless you can ascertain how much of it there is in their body. Because you need massive, this is the word of one medical scientist, you need massive amounts of it to make you sick, never mind kill you. But this test doesn't test for how much you have. It's a joke. And how people like Mike Adams and other parts of the alternative media could have been scammed by this is absolutely extraordinary. And supporting lockdown